Welcome back. This is episode 56 of the Love and Light podcast. I am Willie Lightfoot.
And I am Lovely Warren.
And we have an extremely interesting topic for our listeners and viewers today. What are we talking about, sis?
Democracy on trial.
On trial. Wow.
Because this mess,
yes,
and I'll say it, it's a mess. It's a mess, right? It is. That the Supreme Court is doing to the Voting Rights Act and the redrawing of the lines, the redistricting in an off year. It is insane. It
is insane. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about the ruling, what it did. We're going to break that down, what it means locally, what we can do. All of those things we're going to talk about in this show, episode 56, WDKX. We want you to give your comments, like, share, follow on the WDKX podcast network. But we always do our Love and Light. Here we talk about what things that people don't talk about or don't talk about nearly enough. But we always have a love lifting segment where we lift up people. And in this particular segment, we want to lift up every single person and every voter who's ever stood in the line to vote, every elder who's ever marched for the right to be counted, and every young person who's ever registered for the first time. We see you and we lift you up today.
Absolutely. And it's important to lift them up and to let them know that they are seen, and more than ever this year. I think that this year is pivotal, like the civil rights movement in the 1960s, right? This year, when we're talking about democracy truly being on trial and people knowingly telling people that they can't vote when people fought and died for this right here, and they're doing it legally, right? They're doing it legally to, in an off year, redistrict lines, change the law, right? And so that's what, it's, the playbook doesn't change.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't. It doesn't change. The people may change, the players may change, but the book and the plays remain the same. What we're talking about today, family, is we're talking about the Supreme Court's ruling in the Louisiana versus the Callias, is that how you say it? Which has changed the Voting Rights Act in ways we've never seen in decades, right? What did that ruling do, Lovely? Break it down.
So in a 6-3 decision, the court struck down Louisiana's majority black congressional district.
Okay. So, and it was specifically black.
Calling it, specifically black, calling it an unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. So let me put this in context for people here in Rochester, right? So remember, back in the 1980s, Assemblyman David Gant had sued the state of New York and said that Rochester, based on our population, could support a district that was majority people of color district. That in turn created, at the time, the 133rd Assembly District, which is now the 137th Assembly District, right? And so basically there was a law on the books, a national law that basically said that because that racial barriers and issues that it pertains to people of color, we were written out of the system where we didn't have representation. If you could create a district that was majority minority or majority people of color, then they had to create that district so that people of color could have representation, right? So what the Supreme Court did was they said, no more. We will no longer allow you to create these districts based on people of color having representation. And therefore, in places like Louisiana, in places like Texas, in places like Florida, what they're doing is creating majority white districts so people of color cannot be elected to represent their own.
Now, this is how deep this situation, what you just said, should actually blow people's mind.
Yeah.
It should really anger people as well. The court said that states can almost never consider race when drawing maps, even when trying to comply with the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 is the heart of the Voting Rights Act. It's what prevents states from diluting the voting right power of Black, Latino, Native Americans, and other minority communities. Now, what they've done, the ruling is leaving the Voting Rights Act like a hollow shell. That's not small, that's symbolic, and it's structural.
And it's on purpose, right? So it is intentional. Right before your eyes, they are utilizing the law. And see, this is what they typically do to people of color, right? They utilize the law to now say that you're undervalued here, right?
Yes.
Now, at some point in time, when the Voting Rights Act happened, it was like, hey, we believe that everybody, no matter your race, and deserves representation in Congress, in their state house, on their city council, because you have a different frame of reference. We should be able to do that. But what they're doing is, because they know, right? The Republicans specifically, they know that if they leave things the same, they are going to get trounced in November, because people are tired of what's happening. Their gas prices are going up. Their cost of living is going up.
Yes.
Their food is going up.
Income.
Their energy is going up. Everything except for income, right? And so people are tired. So what do? They say, okay, we want to be in charge
forever.
That's
really what
and
they
we're
want.
going to use the system to make sure that we continue to be in charge. And remember, right? There are more red states than there are blue states, right? So New York and California and the blue states can try to do what they must to actually redraw the lines and change it and shift it based on what the Supreme Court just ruled. But at the end of the day, it may not be enough to counterbalance all the red states that are going to now create these specific districts so that their people can be elected.
Love and Light Podcast, episode 56, Democracy on Trial,
Yeah.
the Supreme Court and the Voting Rights Act. As you were going into, what does this mean? The stakes for representation, as you were talking about. Let's talk some numbers. More than 52 million Americans live in communities where minority voters make up a significant share of the population. More than 1 in 4 congressional districts rely on the Voting Rights Act protections to ensure fair representation.
Absolutely. Essentially, we're living in two different Americas. When you look at the majority versus the dissent, and I'm going to specifically quote here what Justice Alito wrote. He wrote that the Constitution almost never allows the government to use race as a factor. That's the majority view. So if the Constitution and all the changes that have happened to the Constitution over the years and the amendments and all those things, if we can never use race as a factor, they have just set us back 100 years. And that's really what they want to do.
Well, remembering, we the people we were never considered people. We were less than people. We were never considered that in this Constitution in the first place, of the originality of it in the first place. So like you said, now they want to set us back where we're having these two different visions of America. One says race can be considered, the other one says it can be ignored. We don't have, it's not a factor when we're talking about representation. So when we talk about this, what does it mean for Rochester? What does it mean for New York? What does it mean for our local municipalities? As you was alluding before, these things, when you're talking about Assemblyman Gant, the Honorable Assemblyman Gant, we've seen these battles play out here locally when we're talking about school board representatives, state representatives, county legislators. Oftentimes, and I remember Assemblyman Gant would always say, people should have an opportunity to elect people that look like them,
Right.
or elect their own. That people should have that opportunity.
Whether you're Latino,
Yeah.
whether you're African American, whether you're Asian, whatever it is, right? You should have the opportunity to have representation in Congress, in your state house, in your local elections, to represent the viewpoints of the people in your community, because everyone has a different frame of reference. That is clear, right? That's what we should be doing. But exactly what happened was the Supreme Court, they said, So how does this affect you? It may not affect us today, right? So it may not take the 137th Assembly District away today, right? However, could it in the future? Absolutely. Could it if the House and if the Assembly and the Senate changed to Republican and they said, okay, well, we want to make sure that we are in the majority now, and so we're going to redraw these lines to benefit us and our people and the people that we want into office. And it's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate that the Republican Party has turned so far away from the center where they don't even want black or brown representation at all. There was a time in this country where black and brown people were never in Congress. And that is exactly, in some states, what it's going to be in 2027. Right?
Amen. That's what it's looking like. It's the direction that we're going in based on this Supreme Court decision. But what it means for Rochester also, and this is an interesting statistic. In Monroe County, more than 34% of voters live in communities where minority representation is essential to fair outcomes. So when we think about this, we think about communities losing their voting power, resources being shifted, funding being shifted, priorities being shifted as to what is important to one side based on what may be important to the actual people that live in that community. All of these things are on the line, and all of these things are critical when you look at this decision that was just brought down by the Supreme Court.
It is so unfortunate that we are where we're at today. And it is important that we recognize why this matters. Because we may not see the immediate effects, right? There are some things that we know based on the Project 24 plan, right? That they have started to execute and started to do and all of that. There are some things that is going to affect our children and our grandchildren, right? And it is imperative that if you don't do anything else this year, that you get out and you vote and you stand up for democracy.
That's
because it is truly on trial.
This is about whether the sacrifices of John Lewis mattered, Fannie Lou Hamer mattered, and so many others that stood in the gap and that fought for fairness, equality, for our vote being able to matter and mean the same as someone else's vote matters and means. So this is about, democracy, literally we are fighting for. So what can we do? What can the communities do? Staying grounded, being engaged. What can we do? What some of the things that folks can do?
I would say stay grounded, as you said. I would also say take someone to the polls with you, right? Especially if you live in these states where this is making a major impact, right? So, we saw it play out when Representative Jasmine Crockett, they redrew the lines, drew her out of her district. They, she ended up losing the Senate primary. Here you have strong Black woman standing up for the rights of people of color. And in Texas, they drew out a district. That's happening in Louisiana, where you have a strong black congressman that is being the lines are being redrawn, so he's out of his district, and little by little, it is going to impact. Do not say that you didn't know. Do not say that you don't care. Do not say that. What you can say is, let me take you to the polls. Rather you care about, this at this moment in time. I am telling you this is going to impact our future in unimaginable ways. Unimaginable ways. And we have to stay engaged, stay grounded. But most of all, we have to vote.
I'm going to encourage and challenge as the president of the Barbers Association, as a pastor. I first want to challenge every pastor to look at creating a social justice ministry in your church. Every church, no matter how small, no matter how large or how small, should have a social justice ministry where you begin to educate your parishioners and your community upon the right of voting and making sure that everyone is empowered with that information. That's very important. We can't sit on the sidelines anymore. The church has to be very engaged in this whole conversation and movement. Also, barbers and beauticians. These are two places, the churches, the barbershops, the beauty salons, where people still congregate, especially people of color, still congregate a lot. So we have a lot of power, a lot of opportunity to have these discussions in the chair, outside of the chair. But we need to be having these discussions. We need to make sure we have voter registration cards in our barbershops, in our salons, appearance enhancement industry locations, in our churches, out in the vestibule areas. Make sure every church, I'm challenging every pastor, every barber, every beautician, every appearance enhancement professional to get in this fight by educating folks, making sure that they're registered, encouraging them to register, taking them to the polls, and making sure that we don't allow this to change our quality of life.
This is the Love and Light Podcast, powered by 103.9 WDKX. Choose love every day.
And make sure no one puts a lampshade on your light. Keep shining. We love you. God bless you. Until we see you again. Peace.